Welcome to Reshaped by Loss, a space where we talk honestly about grief, change, and the ways loss reshapes us, not to break us, but to deepen us. I'm Crystal, your host, and if you're here today, you don't have to be strong. You don't have to have it all figured out. Just come as you are. Today I want to talk about a grief you can't articulate. A kind of grief that doesn't come with language. You feel it, but you can't explain it. You carry it in your body, in your chest, in your exhaustion, in the way certain moments knock the breath out of you without warning. And here's what I've learned. Grief has a voice, even when we don't have the words. Sometimes that voice doesn't sound like sentences. Sometimes it sounds like silence, like tension you can't shake, like tears that shows up without permission. This is the grief that lives underneath the brave face. Unarticulated grief is confusing. You might think, I should be able to explain this by now. Or, I don't even know what's wrong with me. But grief doesn't always move in logic. It moves in waves. Some days it's heavy, other days it's quiet but present. And sometimes it shows up sideways as irritability, numbness, or restlessness. That doesn't mean you're doing grief wrong. It means grief has a voice and is trying to communicate the only way it knows how. Some losses are too layered for language, too sudden, too sacred, too painful. So instead of words, grief speaks through your body, through tight shoulders, through shallow breaths, through fatigue that sleep doesn't fix. And when we can't explain our grief, we often question ourselves. But silence doesn't mean absence. Silence means grief is still speaking. For a long time, I thought faith meant I needed to quiet my grief, that trusting God meant learning how to move on. But what I've come to learn and understand is this: God never asked us to silence our grief. He invites us to bring it into the light. Scripture is full of laments, full of cries, full of prayers that aren't polished, because grief has a voice and God is not afraid of it. Sometimes prayer isn't eloquent. Sometimes prayer isn't just breath. Sometimes prayer is simply saying, God, I don't have the words, but I know you hear me. When grief isn't allowed to speak, it doesn't disappear. It waits. And over time, it finds louder ways to be heard. Through emotional shutdown, through anger you don't recognize, through disconnection from yourself and others. Not because grief wants to harm you, but because it wants to be acknowledged. Grief has a voice, and listening to it is an act of compassion, not weakness. So I invite you, gently, without pressure, instead of asking, how do I fix this? Try asking, what is my grief trying to tell me? You don't need answers yet. You don't need clarity. You just need permission to listen. Healing doesn't start with forcing words or It just starts with honoring what's already being expressed. I want you to remember this. Your grief is not broken. Your silence is not failure. Your body is not betraying you. Grief has a voice. And when we learn how to hear it, it no longer has to shout. Next time, we're going to talk about what happens when unspoken grief turns into unresolved emotions. The feelings we carry because we don't yet know how to let grief speak. Until then, be patient with yourself. May peace, peace, shalom, shalom, meet you right where you are. You are not broken. You are being reshaped. And remember, grief has a voice. And if this space feels safe for you, I invite you to subscribe to Reshaped by Loss. That way, you'll know when new episodes are released and you won't have to walk this journey alone.